India seems to be moving towards plutocracy. Yes, you have heard it right. According to a report that has been published by World Inequality Lab titled Billionaire Raj in India. It's a World Inequality Report. The report states that the number of billionaires in India has ballooned. By 1990s, in India there was 1 billionaire, and by 2022, 160 plus billionaires are present in India. And based on various data sets, the report states that it seems like in India there is a movement towards plutocracy. In simple terms, the government directly or indirectly is influenced, the policies are influenced by high rich or high net worth individuals. Welcome to Unacademy. Welcome to another session of Economy Explained. And in this session, let's try and understand what are the important points that you need to observe, take away from the report that has been published, which has created a lot of discussion regarding inclusive growth, inequality, income inequality, wealth inequality in Indian economy. But before that, a very important announcement. We have started a pure English online classroom program. The new batch has been launched from March 16th. The faculties who are taking the classes are Sarmad Sir, myself, Abhishek Sir, Mukesh Sir, Chetan Sir, and Himabindu ma'am. If you're interested, please give a call to this number, or you can check out for further details. The link is provided in the description section. In addition to this, one more very important point, we are also offering 50% discount on your programs, and we are providing a 6 months extension for your civil services course purchases. Let's start the discussion now. Very recently, the World Inequality Lab has published its latest edition of Inequality Report. And in this Inequality Report, they have given very stark findings, very worrisome findings regarding what has happened to the income inequality and wealth inequality in the context of India. Now, before I start, many of you will have this doubt, sir, doesn't wealth mean income? According to me, income and wealth, both are the one and the same, but you are using in a different way. What is the difference? Please understand this. Wealth is the sum total of all the assets. Is it okay? The wealth is the sum total of all the assets. For example, a person will have wealth in the form of the land, they will have wealth in the form of gold and other form of assets. Whereas the income is the salary, it is the source of salary. So there can be income inequality and there can also be wealth inequality. So what has been the findings of this report? Let's go point by point. Post-independence in India, the income inequality has actually reduced over a period of time. Please have a look at the graph. What the graph represents is how much is out of the total income, the earnings that are done by the top 1% of the population. And when I say top 1%, top 10%, what does it mean? If you take all the 100 plus crores people in India and arrange them from the one who earns the highest to one who earns the lowest, that is basically the top 1% of the population, top 10, middle 40 or bottom 50. This is the way they generally take the numbers. So if you see, at the time of independence, right, at the time of independence, the income inequality, that is basically the top 1% of the population, used to account for around 12%, of the total incomes earned in India. Over a period of time, because various policies of the government, some of you will ask me, sir, what kind of policies are you talking about? What are these policies? For example, Government of India at this point of time, especially after independence, you must have seen, followed a concept of social welfare. Most of these industries which were open for private sector participation, they were nationalized. Coal sector nationalized, banking sector nationalized, civil aviation, etc. So Government of India followed the approach of social welfare maximism, or basically promoted social welfare. And in the process of implementing various reforms, most of these industries were taken away by the government. It was controlled by the government. And that is the precise reason you will see that the income that was accounted by the top 1% of the population actually declined after 1950s, hit the lowest level of around 6%, in 1982. But thereafter, what has happened? Thereafter, there was a milestone reform, that is in the year 1991. In 1991, Government of India implemented reforms by the name of liberalization, privatization and globalization. With the reforms of LPG, short form of it, with the reforms of LPG, now private sector was given more and more space to operate in India. The private investors were allowed to invest, own companies, right, earn lot of profits, generate and take away lot of these profits. And that is the precise reason you will see that post 1991 reforms, the inequality in India, that is the income inequality as well as the wealth inequality, has increased. According to the survey, in 1990s, as already mentioned, there was just one billionaire, high net worth individual in India with assets of over $1 billion. But by 2022, this number has increased to more than 160. In fact, the survey says it is 162 in number. India houses one of the highest number of billionaires in the world. That is one very important observation that you need to make. Now, apart from this, if you just have a look at this representation, just have a look at the representation. How much of the total income generated in India is going to the top 1% population, top 10% of the population, bottom 50% of the population? The numbers are, right, surprising. Numbers are, right, very, very dangerous. Have a look at the data here. The top 1% of the population, that is basically if you count the number of people, right, the top 1% of the population, just around 1 crore people, account for 22%, around 22.6% of total incomes generated. Around 22.6% of total incomes generated, which essentially means if India's income is 100 rupee, if India's whole income, national income is 100 rupee, 22.6 rupees goes to top 1% of the population. Whereas if you look at the bottom 50% of the population, they account for 15%, just 15%, 15, not 50, 15% of the total national income. Such is the situation of huge income inequality that has existed in India. And just have a look at the evolution over a period of time. Please have a look at the evolution over a period of time. You will see that the top 10%, right, top 10%, how much is the national income, percentage of national income they accounted for. Post independence, it has taken a dive, it has taken a hit, and after the reforms were implemented by Government of India, their incomes have started increasing. And why I am discussing so much about all of this, please understand. In GS paper, economics GS paper, that is GS paper 3, there can be a question on inclusive growth. You can use this data to show that the growth that has been happening in case of India, the benefit, more and more of it is reaching the rich people in India, the wealthy people in India, not to the poor people in India. And in the same context, there has been a discussion regarding K-shaped recovery in India, right, where the argument, the proponents basically argue that the post-pandemic situation, more and more benefits have been accrued to the rich sections of the society. The rich people have continued to become more and more rich, where poor are struggling. In fact, in the last 10 years, the report basically divides the last 10 years into 3 phases. 2014 to 2018, 2018, 2020 and post 2020, that is from 2021. And they divide these into 3 phases and say that in these 3 phases, in the first phase, 14 to 18, the economy increased, the size of the economy increased, but the earnings of the top 10% of the population increased at a very faster pace. Between 18 and 20, there was a slowdown experienced. There was a recession experienced by Indian economy. So the earnings of the top 10% of the population actually came down. The percentage growth rate came down. And post 2021, that is the post-pandemic recovery phase, again the pace of earnings of the top 10% have actually increased. They are moving at a very, very faster pace compared to earnings of the poorest sections of the society. And is this inequality just visible in India? The report says there are many other countries. Right? For example, South Africa, where you can see the top 10% accounts for more than 60% of the total income. Right? There is another country, Brazil, where the top 10% accounts for more than 50% of the total income. But in case of India, this is a matter of concern, because post-independence, we are seeing such a high level of inequality, both in case of income as well as in case of wealth. Now, many of you will ask me, okay, sir, agreed, there is inequality. Now, what has to be done? What is the way forward? What should I write in the exam if at all a question is asked? The report mentions that in case of India, the taxation looks regressive in nature. Remember the term. The taxation structure looks regressive in nature. Even many of these taxes which are imposed on the rich population, these tend to become regressive because only a small portion, fraction of their total income, they tend to pay in the form of taxes when such taxes are imposed on them by the government. So what is the way forward then? The report states that we have to include even the wealth, impose taxes on the wealth as well. In fact, please remember this. Government of India before 2015 used to impose taxes on wealth. But after 2015, budget 2015, Government of India announced that the benefit of imposing high taxes or the taxes on wealth, right, they are not seeing that benefit. The cost of collection of these taxes are higher. Citing many of these reasons, Government of India withdrew the wealth tax. They withdrew the wealth tax. So what this report mentions or recommends is government should restructure their taxation structure. They should revamp their taxation structure. For rich people, the tax rate should be higher. It should be much, much higher. They recommend super tax. Remember this. They are recommending super tax. In fact, according to the report, if a super tax is imposed on more than 160 plus billionaires in India, the amount of money, the tax money that the government will collect, they can use it for implementation of various infrastructure projects such as hospitals, such as education institutions, etc. So the report recommends impose a super tax, collect more taxes. In fact, this goes along the lines of canon of taxation capacity. According to the principles of taxation, if you have more capacity to pay taxes, if you have a capacity to pay more taxes, you should be imposed and more taxes should be collected from you. That is a basic argument here. But having said so, is it feasible? Should we impose more and more taxes on the rich people in India? Look at the other side of the argument. The argument is, if you keep on imposing higher taxes on the rich people, already the marginal tax rate that they are paying is more than 42% in India. The marginal tax rate they are paying is more than 42%. So if you further impose and collect higher taxes in the form of, let's say, super tax, the taxpayers might feel the burden of it. They might start changing their residence from India to outside India. So one issue is the residence might shift, so tax receipts will be affected. Second, if you impose and collect more and more taxes from the rich people, the surplus that they have, which they will invest in the market, which they will invest and earn again profit on in the market, the investable surplus will also come down. That will also have a negative impact. It will dampen the investor sentiment in the market. So these are the various arguments associated with the findings in the report, the recommendations of the report, as well as the counterpoints to whatever has been recommended in the report. If you like this initiative, please hit the like button, provide your valuable comments in the section below, And if you are yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it now. Thank you. Have a great day.